Good evening and welcome to Newsnight. I'm Amrit. This is a show on which we tell you what happened in the country and around the globe in the day gone by. Well, major developments took place. India has crossed a landmark milestone in terms of vaccination. In fact, the Prime Minister addressed Mann Ki Baat where he said that India is running one of the biggest vaccination drives. Meanwhile, states are going to polls. Campaigning is on in full swing. Home Minister Amit Shah has made a claim that the BJP will win more than will win a huge success in Bengal and also make a comeback in Assam. Also in the international arena in Myanmar after Saturday's bloodiest day crackdown by the military. Today on Sunday, the military fired on mourners in a funeral procession in one of the 114 people who have been killed. There is global condemnation from around the world. This and much more over the next 1 hour. Let's begin with the headlines we are tracking at this hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi shares his thoughts in the 75th episode of Mann Ki Baat program, expresses gratitude to listeners for making this program a success, urges people to take the story of freedom struggle to the people through Amrit Maharshiv, also says the birth anniversary of Dr. Sahib Ambedkar this time has become even more special. Prime Minister says India is running the world's largest vaccination drive, says tremendous amount of enthusiasm witnessed among elders towards this drive. Also appeals to everyone to take the vaccine, urges people to follow the mantra of Dawai bhi, Kadai bhi. And in its vaccination drive, India crosses the landmark milestone of over 6 crore doses administered till date. More than 24 crore COVID tests conducted in the country. The centre advises high-burden states and union territories to take stringent measures for containment of the surge. Campaigning on in full swing in the assembly polls, Rajnath Singh holds a roadshow in Thiruvananthapuram. Rahul Gandhi addresses public rally in Chennai. Meanwhile, Amit Shah thanks the people of West Bengal and Assam for the high turnout for the first phase of polls in Bengal and Assam. Claims the BJP will get more than 200 seats in West Bengal and return to power in Assam. More than 114 protesters killed in Myanmar in a crackdown by security forces. Forces fire on a funeral procession. Global outrage follows as defense ministers of 12 countries condemn the lethal crackdown. In the third ODI between India and England, India set a target of 330 runs for England. Shikhar Dhawan, Rishabh Pant and Hardik Pandya score 50s. With loss of 7 wickets, England struggled to chase the target. And the colours of Holi are across the country. Holika Dahan, or burning of the effigy of Holika in different parts of the country. Colourful festival of Holi to be celebrated on Monday. Restriction on public holding of Holi events in several states of the country in view of Corona. President and Prime Minister greet the nation on Holi. And those were the headlines we were tracking at this hour. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi has appealed to everyone to take the COVID-19 vaccine, sharing his thoughts in Mann Ki Baat program of All India Radio. On Sunday, Prime Minister Modi said it's a matter of honor for everyone that India is running the world's largest vaccination program. He said several people above 100 years of age have taken the jab, and enthusiasm is visible in the elderly of the household regarding the vaccine. He said amidst all these, everyone should remember the mantra to fight corona is Dawai bhi, Kadai bhi.
With the coronavirus cases surging once again across the country, Prime Minister Narendra Modi lauded the efforts of corona warriors in containing the virus. He said that a small act of praise gives a lot of contentment and encourage these frontline workers.
पिछले वर्ष ये मार्च का ही महीना था। देश ने पहली बार जनता कर्फ्यू शब्द सुना था, लेकिन इस महान देश की महान प्रजा की महाशक्ति का अनुभव देखिए। जनता कर्फ्यू पूरे विश्व के लिए एक अचरज बन गया था। अनुशासन का ये अभूतपूर्व उदाहरण था। आने वाली पीढ़ियां इस एक बात को लेकर के जरूर गर्व करेगी। उसी प्रकार से हमारे कोरोना वॉरियर्स के प्रति सम्मान, आदर, थाली बजाना, ताली बजाना, दिया जलाना, आपको अंदाज नहीं है कोरोना वॉरियर्स के दिल को कितना छू गया था वो। और वही तो कारण है जो पूरी साल भर वे बिना थके, बिना रुके डटे रहे।
With its robust vaccination program, India continues to inoculate its population on a large scale. PM Modi expressed his happiness as several people above 100 years of age have taken the jab, which signifies the enthusiasm of vaccines among the elderly.
आज भारत दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा वैक्सीनेशन प्रोग्राम चला रहा है। वैक्सीनेशन प्रोग्राम के तस्वीरों के बारे में मुझे भुवनेश्वर के पुष्पा शुक्ला जी ने लिखा है। उनका कहना है कि घर के बड़े बुजुर्गों में वैक्सीन को लेकर जो उत्साह दिख रहा है, उसकी चर्चा मैं मन की बात में करूं। साथियों, सही भी है। देश के कोने कोने से हम ऐसी खबरें सुन रहे हैं, ऐसी तस्वीरें देख रहे हैं जो हमारे दिल को छू जाती हैं। यूपी के जौनपुर में 109 वर्ष की बुजुर्ग मां राम दुलैया जी ने टीका लगवाया है। ऐसे ही दिल्ली में भी 107 साल के केवल कृष्ण जी ने वैक्सीन की डोज ली है। हैदराबाद में 100 साल के जय चौधरी जी ने वैक्सीन लगवाई और सभी से अपील भी है कि वैक्सीन जरूर लगवाएं।
Prime Minister once again reiterated his call of Dawai Bhi, Kadai Bhi and urged everyone to stay cautious and safe. Bureau Report, DD India.
And India continues its fight against the pandemic as daily positivity rate increases slightly to over 5%, whereas on the other hand, the mass vaccination drive is leaving no stone unturned to control the virus as the nation completes more than 6 crore administration of vaccine doses across the country. More in this report.
Increasing cases of COVID-19 reported from 12 states of the country is a cause of concern. Maharashtra remains badly affected by the pandemic. In the last 24 hours, more than 35,000 newly infected patients were found in Maharashtra. Night curfew has also been imposed in the state starting from Sunday. From 8 p.m. in the night to 7 a.m. in the morning, not more than 5 people will be allowed to gather at one place. At the same time, 7 other states of the country are also reporting a surge in the number of daily new cases. Among those, MP and Gujarat have reported more than 2,000 infected cases in the last 24 hours. Whereas in Ahmedabad's IIM, a total of 40 people, including a professor and a student, have reported positive for COVID-19, while IIT Gandhinagar reported 25 students who have tested positive for the virus. Complete lockdown has been imposed in 12 cities of Madhya Pradesh starting Saturday night. That will continue till 6 a.m. on Monday. Only 20 people have been allowed for Holika Dahan in big cities of the state. The daily positivity rate has increased slightly to over 5%. The increasing numbers have severely hit the Holi celebrations across the country. The declining fervor of festivity can also be noticed in the markets of Rajasthan.
बाजार में काफ़ी असर है। पिछले साल से मुकाबले बाजार बहुत कम है। इस बार पिचकारी की डिमांड तो बिल्कुल ही नहीं है।
सेल में 50% से भी 50-40% कम है सेल।
Maharashtra has reported the highest daily new cases at 35,726 in the last 24 hours. It is followed by Chhattisgarh with 3,162, while Karnataka reported 2,886 new cases. Punjab reported 2,805 cases, Gujarat recorded 2,276, Madhya Pradesh accounted for 2,142 cases, whereas Tamil Nadu recorded 2,089 cases and Kerala reported 2,055 cases in the last 24 hours, with 312 deaths across the country in the past 24 hours. India's total total active case load has reached 4,86,310 on Sunday, comprising 4.06% of the total positive cases. On the other hand, the vaccination campaign has also picked up momentum. 6,269,782 vaccine doses have been administered through 9,85,018 sessions as per the latest data. Earlier on Saturday, the Union Health Secretary held a high-level meeting to take appropriate steps to prevent the spread of COVID-19 and emphasized on testing, tracing and treatment. Delhi has also taken stern measures in the midst of increasing cases. Now 50% or maximum of 100% will be allowed according to the capacity of the venue, and a gathering of 50 people is permitted to attend a funeral.
अभी शादियों के अंदर जो हॉल की कैपेसिटी का 50% या 100 लोगों का मैक्सिमम कर दिया गया और क्रिमेशन के लिए 50 जो पहले था दोबारा से 50 कर दिया गया.
In the midst of all this, India's Vaccine Maitri campaign continues as the consignment has safely reached the United Nations peacekeeping force in Denmark. 1 lakh doses of Made in India COVID-19 vaccines gifted by Indian Army to the Nepali Army were received at Kathmandu's Tribhuvan Airport on Sunday. Bureau Report, DD India.
And Prime Minister highlighted that this episode of his monthly radio show coincides with the month that marks the commencement of the Amrit Mahotsav of the 75 years of independence. He shared one of the many messages he received on the Namo app, where a resident of the Jharkhand state.
Prime Minister Modi on Sunday addressed the nation in monthly radio program Mann Ki Baat. It was the 75th Mann Ki Baat program, and the Prime Minister called it a pleasant coincidence to express his 75th radio program on the very month that marks the commencement of the Amrit Mahotsav of the 75 years of independence.
अमृत महोत्सव दांडी यात्रा के दिन से शुरू हुआ था और 15 अगस्त 2023 तक चलेगा। अमृत महोत्सव से जुड़े कार्यक्रम पूरे देश में लगातार हो रहे हैं। अलग अलग जगहों से इन कार्यक्रमों की तस्वीरें, जानकारियां लोग शेयर कर रहे हैं।
Prime Minister Modi shared one of the many messages he received on Namo app, where a resident of Jharkhand named Naveen shared pictures of him watching programs on Amrit Mahotsav. Naveen in his message also said that he has decided to visit at least 10 places connected with the freedom struggle, starting with the birthplace of Bhagwan Birsa Munda.
नवीन ने लिखा है कि झारखंड के आदिवासी स्वतंत्रता सेनानियों की कहानियां वो देश के दूसरे हिस्सों में पहुंचाएंगे। भाई नवीन, आपकी इस सोच के लिए मैं आपको बधाई देता हूं।
Through his radio show, Prime Minister Modi asked people to become a means to connect with the countrymen by bringing to the fore the struggle saga of a freedom fighter, the history of a place, or any cultural story from the country.
और फिर ऐसी अमृत धारा बहेगी जो हमें भारत की आजादी के 100 वर्ष तक प्रेरणा देगी, देश को नई ऊंचाई पर ले जाएगी, कुछ न कुछ करने का जज्बा पैदा करेगी।
Prime Minister Modi said in the struggle for independence, freedom fighters had undergone a number of hardships. The Prime Minister said the freedom fighters considered sacrifice for the sake of the country as their duty.
हमारे सेनानियों ने कितने ही कष्ट इसलिए सहे क्योंकि वो देश के लिए त्याग और बलिदान को अपना कर्तव्य समझते थे। उनके त्याग और बलिदान की अमर गाथाएं अब हमें सतत कर्तव्य पथ के लिए प्रेरित करें। और जैसे गीता में भगवान कृष्ण ने कहा है, नियतम कुरु कर्म त्वम कर्म ज्यायो हकर्मणः, उसी भाव के साथ हम सब अपने नियत कर्तव्यों का पूरी निष्ठा से पालन करें। और आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव का मतलब यही है कि हम नए संकल्प करें, उन संकल्पों को सिद्ध करने के लिए जी जान से जुट जाएं। और संकल्प वो हो जो समाज की भलाई के हो, देश की भलाई के हो, भारत के उज्जवल भविष्य के लिए हो। और संकल्प वो हो जिसमें मेरा अपना स्वयं का कुछ न कुछ जिम्मा हो, मेरा अपना कर्तव्य जुड़ा हुआ हो। मुझे विश्वास है गीता को जीने का ये सुवर्ण अवसर हम लोगों के पास है।
Prime Minister Modi in his 75th episode of the Mann Ki Baat also expressed his heartfelt thanks to all the listeners for making the radio program a success, enriching it and staying connected. Bureau Report, DD India.
And talking about the poll-bound states, campaigning is on in full swing in the states going to polls. Union Minister and BJP leader Rajnath Singh on Sunday held a roadshow in Thiruvananthapuram in Kerala, while Congress leader Rahul Gandhi held a rally in Chennai. Union Home Minister Amit Shah has claimed that the BJP will easily win West Bengal and come back to power in Assam.
All eyes are now on the remaining phases of voting following the conclusion of the first phase polling in West Bengal and Assam. But the claims and counterclaims put up by various parties continue. A day after polling ended on Saturday, Union Home Minister and senior BJP leader Amit Shah interacted with the media on Sunday. Amit Shah said West Bengal was known for electoral violence prior to these polls. But the peaceful polling seen during the first phase bodes well for the future. Amit Shah claimed that BJP will win 26 seats out of the 30 seats in the first phase.
मैं मानता हूं कि प्रथम चरण में 26 सीटों से जो शुरुआत हुई है, हमारे लक्ष्य 200 पार को सिद्ध करने में हमें बड़ी सरलता रहेगी। इसी तरह से चुनाव आगे बढ़ता रहा, भारतीय जनता पार्टी 200 से ज्यादा सीटों के साथ बंगाल में सरकार बनाएगी। इसका मुझे विश्वास है, भाजपा के सभी कार्यकर्ताओं का विश्वास है। असम में भी अभी जो सीटें हैं, इससे ज्यादा सीटों के साथ हम पूर्ण बहुमत की भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सरकार बनाएंगे।
Reacting to the alleged audio leak of BJP MP Mukul Roy, Amit Shah, without taking names, hit out at the Mamata government.
मूल इसके अंदर सवाल तो ये है कि फोन कैसे टैप हुआ, किसकी सूचना से हुआ, किसकी परमिशन से हुआ, और चुनाव आचार संहिता लागू हो जाने के बाद सरकार फोन टाइपिंग की सूचना दे सकती है विदाउट कंसेंट ऑफ इलेक्शन कमीशन। इसमें तो एक क्वेश्चन एराइज होता है।
While TMC is also in high spirits and claiming its victory after the first phase polling.
People of Bengal have got us off to a flying start. Of course, Khala Hobe, we've got off to a very, very good start. We're not going to put numbers to seats. We know what's happening. We have 7 phases to go. Trinamool Congress is quietly confident that we've done very, very well in phase 1.
Meanwhile, campaigning is in full swing in Kerala. Senior BJP leader and Defence Minister Rajnath Singh held roadshows in various parts of the state, including Varkala and Ernakulam. Rajnath Singh also addressed public rallies and slammed the left parties.
Kerala में rampant political corruption, political violence भी. बीजेपी कमिटेड है इस बात के लिए कि हम इस पॉलिटिकल वायलेंस और रैम्पेंट इस करप्शन को हम समाप्त करेंगे, क्योंकि अब हम केवल यह वादा नहीं कर रहे हैं। आपने देखा होगा सेंटर में 7 ईयर्स गवर्नमेंट चला रहे हैं, लेकिन भारत ही नहीं दुनिया का कोई व्यक्ति उंगली उठाकर नहीं कह सकता कि हमारी गवर्नमेंट लेड बाय नरेंद्र मोदी के किसी भी मिनिस्टर के ऊपर एक भी कोई करप्शन का चार्ज हो, या कोई नहीं कह सकता।
While left parties are also engaged in full-fledged campaigning in Kerala to woo voters and are claiming victory.
History is in the making in Kerala. The LDF government will return, bereft of any issues that concern the people and the progress of the state. The opposition, the UDF and the BJP, are actually trying to create controversy in order to divert people's attention, without basically addressing the actual issues of their livelihood and their progress.
In Puducherry, Congress released its manifesto, in which the party has promised to provide free vaccination to people, a financial aid of 1,000 rupees for homemakers, reopening mills and enhanced pension for martyrs' kin.
Establishment of a knowledge city. This can be a big knowledge hub, and that is what our manifesto speaks about. There will be a medical tourism, which will attract medical tourism all over the world and also the neighboring states. And we are going to have some such SEZ concept and SEZ city created in Pondicherry, so that it can create lakhs and lakhs of jobs.
However, BJP has slammed Congress for the claims made in its manifesto.
Our manifesto was based on best Puducherry. The Congress people got the copy of our manifesto. They have taken some point from our manifesto. If they were in the power for 5 years, why they have not fulfilled the promises of the people? Now they are telling lie in front of the people of the Puducherry.
While in neighbouring Tamil Nadu, campaigning is in full swing. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi addressed a public rally in Chennai and campaigned for the DMK-Congress alliance. Overall, political parties are engaged in vociferous campaigning in poll-bound states and are reaching out to the people for support. Bureau Report, DD India.
And the issue of statehood for Puducherry in these elections has pitted both the political alliances in a direct confrontation. While the Congress-led Secular Democratic Alliance is all for granting statehood to the UT, BJP has instead promised a special status for Puducherry in its manifesto. With alliances going all out to woo voters, the statehood topic is the talk of the political corridors in Puducherry.
Puducherry, the union territory, is not immune to changes. From a French-controlled colony to being merged with India, from being a predominantly French-style city to a cosmopolitan centre, from being Pondicherry to its current name of Puducherry, the area has been embracing changes constantly. Now the election promises have revived one more talk, full statehood to Puducherry. Congress is demanding a statehood for the area. Its MP from Puducherry and former Chief Minister V. Vaithilingam says the statehood will be the right course for the UT.
Main issue is the statehood, the self-ruling system, because now the ruling is done by the administrator. There is no say for the public representatives. So even the public grievance is not addressed because of the governor ruling. So the people wanted the self-ruling government.
On the other hand, BJP has promised a special status to the UT in its manifesto. The party is clear that the UT lacks enough resources to manage its own affairs, and being an UT suits it better.
No infrastructure, no source. For example, all the big state own resources for sand and coal and some natural resource. No source in Puducherry. The finance depend on central government. Pondicherry is a union territory. But union territory depend on all the schemes in our central government.
Puducherry has another problem to confront if it is ever made a state. It's not limited to Puducherry area only. The UT has enclave in Kerala, that is Mahe, in Andhra Pradesh, Yanam, and Karaikal in Tamil Nadu. If it ever becomes a state, administration of these far-flung areas is something which will require special attention. For now, the UT is busy preparing for the assembly elections and looking forward to the next government within the framework of the UT.
BJP has been trying to get a foothold in Puducherry politics for past many years. All that changed in the last few months. 6 Congress MLAs who quit the party and brought down the government, of them 2 joined the BJP. The party now feels that it has a fairly good chance to open its tally in Puducherry. Whether the administration of this area changes from being a union territory to a state will be decided later on and maybe after the elections are over. But one thing can be certain, that the politics of Puducherry has changed forever. With cameraman N.A. Sivakumar, Ravidhiman in Puducherry for DD India.
All right, shifting gears now. Mahinder Giri, a range officer who has been deployed at Motichur range of Rajaji Tiger Reserve for the past few years, has become the only ranger from Asia to win the prestigious International Ranger Award. The award was announced for 10 professionals across the globe by the International Union for Conservation of Nature and World Commission on Protected Areas based on their contribution towards conservation. In a tweet, Environment and Forests and Climate Change Minister Prakash Javadekar has congratulated Mahendra Giri for being the only ranger from Asia to win the prestigious International Ranger Award for his contribution towards conservation. And let's now give you a roundup of what all made news across the country.
The NIA, which is probing the death of Mansukh Hiren, has recovered crucial evidences from the Mithi River in Mumbai's Bandra. The agency said that divers have recovered 2 CPUs, a laptop, CCTV DVR and a couple of number plates with the same registration number. Sachin Waze, arrested in connection with the Mukesh Ambani explosive scare case, was taken to the Mithi River in Bandra East by investigators to recover the evidences that he allegedly tried to destroy. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath and Civil Aviation Minister Hardeep Singh Puri on Sunday flagged off a new flight service from Gorakhpur to Lucknow. The Chief Minister also laid the foundation stone for the expansion of the Mahayogi Guru Gorakhnath Airport Terminal building. Registration for the upcoming annual pilgrimage to the Himalayan cave shrine of Amarnath in South Kashmir will start from April 1st. The 56-day yatra to the 3,880-meter high shrine is scheduled to start from the twin routes of Pahalgam and Baltal on June 28 and culminate on August 22nd. Registration will be done through 446 designated bank branches of the Punjab National Bank, Jammu and Kashmir Bank and Yes Bank all over the country. Arrested Trinamool Congress leader and former convener of People's Committee Against Police Atrocities, Chhatradhar Mahato, was produced before a special NIA court in Kolkata. Earlier, a team of NIA officials arrested Mahato from Jhargram. Summons were issued by the NIA to the key Trinamool Congress leader in Jangal Mahal region earlier this month in connection with the murder of a CPI worker, Prabir Mahato, in 2009. Consolidating synergy and interoperability achieved during Malabar 2020, INS Shivalik with integral helicopter and Indian Navy's long-range maritime patrol aircraft P-81 participated in a passage exercise with US Navy's USS Theodore Roosevelt Carrier Strike Group in the Eastern Indian Ocean region.
And the situation in Myanmar is growing grim by the day as Myanmar security forces opened fire on Sunday at people gathered for the funeral of one of the 114 people, or at least 114 people killed on Saturday in the bloodiest day of protests since the military coup happened on the 1st of February. Meanwhile, global condemnation of the Saturday bloodbath continued, with defense ministers from a dozen countries jointly condemning the Myanmar junta for the Saturday crackdown.
Even as Myanmar nationals and the world is still reeling under the shock of one of the worst crackdown on protesters since the military coup last month, Myanmar security forces on Sunday opened fire at people gathered for the funeral of one of the 114 people killed on Saturday. However, there were no immediate reports of killings from the firing. On Saturday, the junta staged a major show of might for its annual Armed Forces Day and cracked down on protesters, even as the death toll since the 1st February coup climbed to at least 440. Violence erupted across Myanmar, with the military using live rounds in over 40 townships across 9 regions, including in the largest city, Yangon. Gunshots were fired at the US Cultural Center in Myanmar's biggest city of Yangon on Saturday. There were no injuries reported in the incident. The world has reacted with outrage, with defense ministers of 12 countries, including United States, Britain, Japan and Australia, condemning the Myanmar military's use of lethal force against civilians. In a rare joint statement, the defense minister said, "A professional military follows international standards for conduct and is responsible for protecting, not harming, the people it serves. We urge the Myanmar armed forces to cease violence and work to restore respect and credibility with the people of Myanmar that it has lost through its actions." The UN and rights groups have expressed concern over the use of disproportionate force by the military junta on unarmed protesters, saying this could harm the fragile democracy. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken said, Washington was horrified by the killings carried out by Myanmar's security forces. British Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab also condemned the killing of unarmed civilians. Meanwhile, rebels in eastern Myanmar were targeted in airstrikes late Saturday, hours after the rebel group had seized a military base. The move marked the first such air assault since the military seized power against the 5th Brigade of the Karen National Union, one of the country's largest armed groups, which says it represents the ethnic Karen people. Myanmar has been in turmoil since the generals ousted and detained civilian leader Aung San Suu Kyi, triggering mass protests demanding a return to democracy. Bureau Report, DD India.
And that brings us to our In Focus tonight. Our In Focus tonight is World Outraged by Myanmar Killings. That's our In Focus tonight, and to discuss that I have with me Vivek Kachu. He was the former secretary at the Ministry of External Affairs, a former diplomat, and also we have retired Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni. He served in the Indian Army as its DGMO, and also he is a security expert now, comments on military matters. First to you, Ambassador Kachu. What is happening in Myanmar? Should that be a matter of concern? We've seen phrases like Saturday bloodbath, day of shame, deadliest day, used in the Western media. In fact, US goes on to say it's horrified by the military's regime of terror. The EU says military has lost its credibility. The UN Secretary General says the crackdown is unacceptable, and he demands a unified and resolute international response. Whatever is happening in Myanmar, is it a matter of huge concern?
It is a matter of concern because the Myanmar system, which was moving towards full democracy, has been derailed. And the Myanmar army has clearly shown that it is it has no desire, whatever it may say, to restore the system which was there earlier. And it has also shown a willingness to use lethal force against the people, against the protesters, and that has led to one number that I've seen, to 400 deaths since the 1st of February. However, having said that, I must note that whenever there is condemnation of such actions, and naturally no democracy is ever happy if a democratic system or a system moving towards democracy gets into reverse gear. And the army then launches the kind of actions the Myanmar army has launched. No democracy likes that, and I think India too, it will be safe to say, does not favor this. However, the kind of outrage that we are seeing in the West is clearly also borne out by the fact that the West is very distant from Myanmar. And it has the luxury to make severely condemnatory statements. Similar is the case in Japan and in Australia. Neighbors, unfortunately, do not have the same luxury. Neighbors must look after their interests even while they are concerned and express concern about a system moving towards democracy getting derailed. Now, the next point I'll make is that we've seen that there is no unanimity in the world. Whatever the Secretary General may aspire to, the fact is that there is no unanimity in the world's approach to the situation in Myanmar. Yesterday was Army Day in Myanmar, and that the Myanmar Army, the Tamador, takes very seriously, because it was the day on which it was founded in 1945. Now, on this Army Day, there were representatives of some countries, including Russia, at a deputy minister level, which had come and participated in the army day, thus indicating that as far as Russia was concerned, while it may have been maybe worried and may not be happy with the situation, yet it wants a process of engagement with the Myanmar generals. And I dare say that given the situation, and a process of engagement might not be completely out of place, even while countries and the international community expresses deep anguish at what is developing. Because history has shown that shunning the generals only pushes them into the arms of China and doesn't yield the kind of results that we are seeing. Yes, things are now not what they were in 1988, but no one wants to push Myanmar into a situation where, or no one should push Myanmar into a situation where there will be even greater violence.
Okay. General Kulkarni, I'll come to you. I'm sorry I introduced you as former DGMO. You were former DG Infantry. I'll correct myself on that. General Kulkarni, I'll come to you in a bit. I want to go back to Ambassador Katju. Ambassador Katju, you say it's a matter of great concern. Of course, if military fires at its people and at least 114 people are killed, and I use the word at least because these figures are collated by our unofficial figures, yet 114 people killed in a day, especially on the Armed Forces Day, and when the military is showing its might in Naypyidaw and across 40 townships, there are protests going on in the country and the military has to fire. And today the military fires at mourners and funeral processions. So great, the world needs to express anguish. There may be, you're right that there might be differences on what approach to take. But why is there a rather muted response from India? India shares both a land border and a maritime border with Myanmar.
I think India has made its position clear. It has expressed concern at these developments. But India doesn't want to shut the door on the face of the Myanmar general. I think it wants a process of engagement. India is a neighbor, and it does not have the luxury of distance as Western democracies have. India has deep interests, including security interests in Myanmar. And therefore, even as it is concerned with what is happening, it is approaching the matter with a certain sensitivity and a certain care, trying to balance various factors and keeping its interests uppermost in its mind. So there is always a certain act that has to be performed in such cases when countries like India, which is a neighbor, gets involved. As I said, it is easy to pass judgments and to make strong statements when you are at a distance from a certain country, when interests are not as deep as India's are in this situation. Now I'm stating a fact. This is a fact. India is not happy with what is happening, but these are facts. Facts of life, facts of diplomatic life.
In any case, the statements, the strong, so-called strong statements by the West are ringing hollow on the military's ears in Myanmar. It continues to do what it does. Ambassador Katju, but what is your experience? I mean, we haven't, say, expressed anguish at yesterday's incident. The critics say that we sent our military attaché to attend that parade where the Russian deputy defense minister was there. You say there is a rationale to that. We need to not cut off ties with them. We need to talk to them. But behind the scenes, would diplomacy be working? Would we be talking to them and making them see reason, say, for release of political detainees and stopping the sort of use of military force against its own citizens?
Look, I'll be frank with you. I served as India's ambassador to Myanmar, even though it was a brief period, but that experience taught me that the Myanmar generals are very suspicious of outside powers. And it requires a great deal of diplomatic skill to engage them in a manner that they see reason. Now, I'm confident that India would be attempting to engage the Myanmar generals, because engagement is something that a neighbor must do.
Okay.
And yet, while doing this engagement, it must be adopting means which will constructively influence their mind.
Okay.
My last point is, I'll just make one sentence.
Yes, sir.
You see, there is condemnation, statements of great unhappiness, saying that we are horrified at this, is fine. But does it yield results? Will it prevent the Myanmar army from proceeding in the manner that it has? Second, in order to make an impact on the Myanmar army, because the Myanmar army has a certain tradition, and I've told you they are very suspicious of outsiders. That suspicion has diminished, but it is still very live.
Okay.
Now, given this, they need to be engaged in a manner that they will be influenced. And that requires an enormous amount of patience and skill. And we have to engage them because we share a border, a long border.
So we bear consequences.
Very long border with Myanmar.
True, we bear more consequences than the West, which is distance. That's the point that Ambassador makes. General Kulkarni, you as a former military man, how do you see this situation? Though the Indian Army has never been in such situation where it had to, deal with such sort of protests, though there have been minor protests, say, in places of insurgency in the northeast or even in Jammu and Kashmir, but the Indian Army mainly engages with, insurgents, with terrorists, armed outfits, but rarely with civilians. But what should be the military strategy when people in 40 townships come out on the roads and tell you to go back to the barracks, release political detainees and say, well, we repose our faith in whatever fledgling form of democracy it was, and we want them back, and we just don't want the men in uniform to be running us?
You heard Ambassador Karju tell us that, India believes in the rule of law. India believes in democracy, but we have to be pragmatic. India has 1,643 kilometers of land border with Myanmar. We have Arunachal Pradesh, we have Manipur, Nagaland, Mizoram, states which have land border with Myanmar. We have the northeast insurgency, a lot of the insurgents camp in Myanmar so far, and Myanmar government has been now supportive and ensuring that these camps are not established in Myanmar. We have a beautiful cultural relationship, political relationship, military relationship with Myanmar. We've had the Foreign Secretary and the Chief of the Army Staff visit Myanmar last year. We also had the present Chief of the Army Staff, who was the Defense Attaché in Myanmar. They have officers come on courses to India. So we have a fantastic relationship. Having said that, Myanmar is a neighbor. And since Myanmar is a neighbor, it's so much very easy, even we would want to do, but we have to be pragmatic. We cannot be idealistic. And if you have to be pragmatic, we've got to see. You see China in a multi-dimensional role, the kind of pressure it is putting on India. The kind of pressure that you have in Myanmar from China. China has taken over Myanmar economically in such a big way. Myanmar is overtly supporting the Myanmar army and covertly supporting the Arakan army. Now, 95% funding of the Arakan army comes from there, the Rakhine province. We have the Rohingyas who are migrating in large numbers as refugees to Bangladesh and to India. You have the kind of problems that are occurring the world over. You find China's wanting its presence in the Indian Ocean. So you find that in Andaman, it's just about 30 kilometers separated from a Myanmar island over there. You find the Chinese are wanting it to be there. Big Pak-China nexus that is there in Myanmar. So we have to have engagement with Myanmar, whatever it might be. Myanmar is an old, relationship. Till 1937, it was very much part of India. And since we have excellent cultural relationship, political relationship, military relationship, we must build on it. Obviously, who would want the kind of things that have happened just prior to the Armed Forces Day? We wouldn't want it. Even Aung San Suu Kyi's father, who was responsible for the 1945 Armed Forces Day, he's in fact the founder of the Myanmar Army. But whatever be it, we have to have our relationship. We don't want Chinese influence now coming up in such a big way around us that we become idealistic and try and distance ourselves from Myanmar. No, we must engage with Myanmar. We must be in constant good relationship with Myanmar. We have to express, we don't agree with what may be happening over there, but to distance ourselves and be idealistic and saying, no, we don't want to engage, it would not bear fruits to us.
General, I agree with you that it has to be a constructive engagement and we should engage with them, and our interests lie in engaging with them. China is the elephant in the room. Even if we look at purely from geostrategic interests, our interests lie in engaging with them and nudging them to see reason, and as the ambassador says, to have a sort of a fruitful outcome. But the critics of this say that you are alienating the people of Myanmar. When people are out in 40 townships, on that day you sent your defense attaché to attend that function, at least don't be publicly seen with them. You have cultural, historical linkages with the people of Myanmar at a difficult situation like this. You cannot be seen as siding with the army. Keep talking to the army behind the scenes, but publicly be seen as you run the risk of being seen by the Myanmaris or the Burmese nationals as somebody standing with the army at this point in time.
I agree with you, but just imagine at the Armed Forces Day, you have the Chinese present, you have the minister from Russia's presence, both UN Security Council permanent members, you have the Pakistani presence over there, you have the Bangladesh presence over there, you have the Vietnam presence over there, and India, a neighbor with such fantastic relationships. Of course, we are there for democracy. We have excellent relationships with Aung San Suu Kyi, but to just abstain and to be able to see, no. I think we would much better to be engaged. We have a Northeast. After all, what is the bridge to the Southeast Asian nation? Myanmar. Myanmar is the bridge to Southeast Asia. Even ASEAN, of which 1997 Myanmar became a member.
True.
Even ASEAN would want tremendous amount of interaction with Myanmar. But yes, what you are saying, I do agree. We must condemn. We have condemned. We will not stand by what is happening. We would even engage with the Myanmar army. Tell them that.
May I come in on
Yes, very briefly. I'm totally out of time, Ambassador Kaju, please.
I think this is a test of Indian diplomacy. You are absolutely right. We must ensure that the people of Myanmar are not alienated by us. But there are ways and means of conveying to the people of Myanmar that our engagement with the army does not mean an endorsement of what the army is doing. Quite the contrary. We don't like what the army is doing. We are unhappy with the reversal of democracy. Therefore, engagement with the army is to restore the system. Engagement. So while we are engaging with the army, there is no reason why we should not simultaneously and strongly engage with the democratic forces of Myanmar. So perhaps our simultaneous engagement can go on.
Perhaps our foreign affairs establishment needs to communicate this message louder and clearer. Ambassador Vivek Karju, General Sanjay Kulkarni, many thanks for being on the show tonight and lending us your insights. Thank you.
Thank you.
And moving on, Suez Canal salvage teams were alternating between dredging and tugging to dislodge a massive container ship blocking the busy waterway, while two sources said that efforts had been complicated by the rock under the ship's ship. The Suez Canal Authority said that dredgers working to dislodge the stranded vessel have so far shifted 27,000 cubic meters of sand to a depth of 18 meters, and efforts would continue around the clock according to wind conditions and tides. Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has ordered preparations for the possible removal of some of the ship's 18,300 containers. Meanwhile, at least 369 boats are waiting to transit the canal. And back home in West Bengal on the 9th of 27th and 28th March, based on secret source information as reported by in charge of the Narendra police station, a police team conducted raids. During the search, 56 pieces of bombs were recovered. Cases were registered against one person named Tarun and unknown others who are involved in the racket of manufacturing, transportation and illegal use of bombs. Bomb disposal squad has disposed of all 56 bombs. Investigation is continuing and all efforts are being made to nab the involved miscreants. The government has clarified on a fake news circulating on social media that claims that lockdown will be imposed in Delhi from Monday morning. PIB Fact Check has said that this video is from last year. It's an old news clip and is being shared without any context. And Prime Minister on the 12th of March had launched the Amrit Mahotsav on the occasion of 75 years of Indian independence. On this occasion, he had flagged off the Dandi Yatra that traces the route which Gandhiji took way back in 1930. This Yatra has reached Bharuch's Mangrol, tracing the historic route. Gandhiji had started the Dandi Yatra on the 12th of March in 1930 and on the 6th of April he had reached Dandi in his salt satyagraha. The nation is all ready to be immersed in the colors of Holi. In fact, in some places, the colors are already flying thick and fast. Holika Dahan was held in several parts of the country on Sunday. Restriction on public holding of Holi programs in several states in view of COVID-19 pandemic, and there's a strict curb on crowding, but this has not dampened the enthusiasm amongst people. President and Prime Minister have greeted the nation on the occasion of Holi.
The festival of colours Holi has begun. There has been enthusiasm seen among the people across the country with regards to Holi. However, the COVID-19 pandemic has led to little muted Holi. Still, the images of different colours and revelry of Holi are emerging from different parts of the country. Somewhere one can see Holika Dahan or burning of effigies of Holika, while elsewhere the colours of Holi are being played. Holika Dahan took place on Sunday. The festival of Holika Dahan took place with enthusiasm across the country.
बहुत कष्ट हो लिया, पूरा विश्व जो त्रस्त है इस कोरोना से, इस होलिका दहन पे। जैसे उन्होंने पहले भक्त प्रहलाद को बचाया, ऐसे ही आज होलिका जो माता है वो इस कोरोना से सबको मुक्ति दे, सब स्वस्थ रहे, सब सुखी रहें।
होलिका के दहन के समय हम जितने भी अपने बुराइयां हैं या हमारे जीवन की बाधाएं हैं, बीमारियां, उनको हम लोग इस अग्नि में, होलिका की अग्नि में भस्म कर देते हैं। तो हम इस होली के त्यौहार पर यही विनती करते हैं कि जो आपदा और प्रकोप है कोरोना के रूप में जो आया है वो जल्दी से जल्दी समाप्त हो।
मैं ये कहना चाहता हूँ कि सारे चिल्ड्रंस एंड बड़े लोग सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग बना के होली खेले और मास्क पहने रहे।
Monday will see Holi being celebrated across the country. Varanasi and Mathura are immersed in colours of Holi. People are celebrating Holi in both places with full enthusiasm. The President Ramnath Kovind and the Prime Minister Narendra Modi greeted the countrymen on Holi.
जिस समय हम रंगों के साथ होली मना रहे होते हैं, उसी समय बसंत भी हमारे चारों ओर नए रंग बिखेर रहा होता है। इन त्योहारों के अवसर पर मैं सभी देशवासियों को शुभकामनाएं देता हूं।
Due to the increasing cases of COVID-19, many states have banned public holding of Holi events. Governments of several states, including Delhi, Maharashtra, have appealed to people to celebrate the festival with family at home. The union government has also asked the state government not to allow any crowd to gather at any place on the day of Holi. The administration have advised people to avoid celebrating Holi on a large scale. Bureau Report, DD India.
So celebrate Holi, but be careful. There's a surge in COVID cases in at least 12 states. So we really need to be cautious, as the Prime Minister said, while the vaccination is on, but it may not be the complete answer. So Dawai bhi and Kadai bhi. So the Kadai is maintain social distances, do not organize large gatherings, wear a mask and follow all the COVID protocols, and meanwhile enjoy Holi, and we at DD India wish you a very happy Holi. The Christian-dominated state of Mizoram celebrated Palm Sunday with religious fervor amidst pandemic to commemorate the entry of Jesus Christ into Jerusalem on the last Sunday before his crucifixion. After churches were closed last year due to strict lockdown, this year churches are open for all faithful, even though Palm Sunday procession couldn't be arranged like before. Few churches organized the Palm Sunday procession in the morning, singing praise, hymns and Hosanna, while other churches such as the Catholic churches solemnly organized Palm Sunday Mass, marking the first day of the Holy Week with the blessings of palms and proclaiming and waving palm leaves. And Pope Francis led Palm Sunday services in almost empty St. Peter's Basilica because of the coronavirus restrictions for the second consecutive year, and said the devil is taking advantage of the pandemic. In pre-COVID times, Palm Sunday, which marks the start of the Holy Week and leads to Easter, tens of thousands of people would pack St. Peter's Square, holding olive branches and intricately woven palm fronds in an outdoor ceremony. Instead, only about 120 members of the faithful took part in Sunday's Mass, joining the Pope and 30 cardinals in the secondary wing of the huge Basilica. Italy is in the midst of another national lockdown, which is due to end after Easter. Nearly everyone who took part in the Mass, except the Pope and the choir, wore masks. The Indian trio of Kanan Chennai, Prithviraj Tondaiman and Lakshya Shoran won a gold medal in the men's team trap event at the ongoing ISSF Shooting World Cup in New Delhi. The Indian team defeated Slovakia 6-4 to clinch the top honours. India currently tops the medal charts and has won 30 medals in the tournament, including 15 gold. Earlier in the day, the Indian team of Rajeshwari Kumari, Manisha Keer and Shreyasi Singh bagged the gold medal in the women's trap team. Prior to that, India won a silver medal in the men's 25-meter rapid-fire pistol team event. The Indian team of Gurpreet Singh, Vijayveer Sidhu and Adarsh Singh were beaten by the United States in the final. And that's it from us at In India. But as I said, be cautious, and wishing you again a very, very happy Holi. Thanks for watching. Namaskar.